into one and saying, yes, that old Bradford Bulls has kind of been a bit of a waste of money along the way for lots of people involved in rugby league. So, just on Bradford itself, do you think having Bradford, even having Odsal, a spruced up maybe Odsal, but Odsal in the sport, do you think they're valuable assets for the sport that we should look to hope to find people to bring that back?
I mean, I don't think the sport needs Bradford Bulls. I don't think the sport needs any particular individual club, and I'd include my own in that. If we're unable to properly run the club and have sort of go into a long series of financial crises, I think it's entirely viable for the sport to continue without the Bulls, without Saints, etc. Particularly when you have got new teams arriving on the scene. I think we should want to have the Bulls, and I for one would really miss having Bradford in rugby league. I tipped them to come up this year, and I'll keep doing so because I'd love to see the Bulls back in Super League. They having rugby in that part of the world, and in a city where historically they've shown a lot of support for the sport that I love. I think they are. I think they can bring and have brought a lot to the sport over the years. So to answer Carson's question, I don't think we need them, but I think we ought to want them, and I think they will be very, very sadly missed if they're not there anymore. Coming back to the Odsal question, again, I mean, it does need a lot, more work. There's no doubt about that. Hell, it's not the only ground that needs some love and attention. But again, it's indeed. It's part of our heritage. My own grandfather was at the Warrington Halifax Challenge Cup replay, the part of the world record rugby league crowd, and it's always one of the places that even though I'm usually piddling wet through, it's always one of but it is one of the places I've always loved to go and watch Saints play. Up at Bradford.
Yeah, I'd
even pre-Super League.
I'd echo that. Yeah, and it wasn't the same when they were at Valley Parade, was it, for those 2 years?
No.
It didn't feel as fun to watch.
No, absolutely didn't. And I would miss it greatly if it vanished from our sport for good.
I think what I would say is, any presence in any large city or medium-sized city or small city is good. The Bradford colours, the Bradford name is something that does have a good, strong history and identity, and it is recognisable outside of our sport, I would say, as well, the name the Bradford Bulls. What I would say is that there no longer can be financial support or special help. All that there could really be now is assisting the people who want to take on the Bradford Bulls, to give them a pathway to have the sport back in the city, back in Bradford, and actually have it mean something, rather than what Alan's saying, it doesn't mean anything when it's in another little town that's not Bradford, that's already got rugby league, that's already got a rugby league community game around it. But help them with best practice and that sort of stuff, getting the shit together, but not with cost-based resources that the sport hasn't got to give to a club that hasn't ever got itself in order for the last 15 years.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, Mark. I think the only caveat I would say is that clearly things have. It's different owners down here. Well, it'll be different owners in the future. I do think we need to have a think about where we draw the line and give Bradford a properly clean slate, because I think the fact that we've not given them the same share of funding from the centre And I know they've historically had lots of support, but the fact that we're not giving them the same level of funding means that they're going to continue to walk a tightrope until we're prepared to forgive the past and say, right, let's give this club a clean slate and allow them to compete on a fair basis with everybody else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't go docking their funding unless they're getting advances on their funding. But this is the problem. They've asked for advances, wasted that money almost, because it's not paid off their debts. It's not paid off their creditors. It's left people out of pocket still. And then they've kind of come cap in hand expecting another special treatment off the back of it. It needs to be a new club, doesn't it, with a new attitude, a new mindset.
It does.
And everyone needs to think.
It does.
You know, if we want to be the Bradford Bulls, we need to restore some confidence in that brand by not shirking our responsibilities and our debts. And if we want to be Bradford something else, then that's fantastic too. Let them get in however any other succession club, any new entrant would get in. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Karsten. I'm not sure that we have a conclusive point on that, but at the moment I think we all think it'd be nice to have a club in Bradford that was well run. And but instead of talking about a club who's been asking for handouts and maybe wasting funds, a club that's getting no handouts at all is the next one to talk about, because Wally Frogmore got in touch to say, Can I have it explained why so many are against Toronto entering Super League? I get the wanting to do all the games home and away, but let's be honest, it's only 1 or 2 games that would be missed if the travel couldn't be done. So I guess the question is, why are so many people against Toronto? Who wants to go first? Because Alan, we know me and you are both quite pro. So,
I am
David,
pro.
where do you stand on Toronto?
I mean, we talked about this when I was last on the show a little bit, Mark. I mean, I've made no secret of the fact that I'm delighted that they're coming up next year at a personal level, because I can't wait to go and see Saints in Toronto. I'm very much looking forward to doing that. I am sceptical about the financial viability of Toronto as a club in the medium term, and I'm concerned about, rather like we were with Paris, having the game shown up in a bad light if, as I suspect, the club eventually finds it too difficult to maintain itself in the medium term. But hell, I could be completely wrong. I think the only other thing is something around the fixtures, which is a little bit of a worry, I think. And we talked about this a little bit last time, and you were quite rightly pointing out, hell, they're not the only ones that are going to have a sort of a lopsided fixture list. I think they've said now that the first games they can play at home in Canada are going to be middle of April. But they're hoping that it's only going to be the 3 loop fixtures that they will play a home fixture in the UK for, and then all the rest of the Super League sides will come and visit them in Canada, which is something.
So they're basically asking for, out of the first, let's say 9. Or 10, let's say 10 rounds of Super League, they're asking for 7 of those to be away fixtures, so that for the last 19 of Super League, they would only have 7 away fixtures. Yeah,
and I don't think that's a disaster. I think clearly they're also then going to have to play blocks of games. They're not going to. I suspect they're not going to play home and away every week. It won't be viable, I wouldn't have thought, to be flying
no one really does,
the team back and forth. No. So, but I do think there's going to be an advantage for Toronto in that, because every team that they play in Toronto is going to be jet lagged. It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
Whereas they'll have some jet lag when they first come back, and they'll have some jet lag when they go into the UK. But they're gonna have a bit of an advantage from playing blocks of games where they're not jet lagged, whereas every team playing in Canada is going to be not quite at the best.
So this is a hypothetical, isn't it? So we've seen 3 seasons from the Wolfpack. The first season they played fairly systematically four like four away, then 4 at home. The second year they missed the whole first half of the season because there was improvements being made to the ground.
Yeah, that's right.
So they played all away and then all home, which wasn't satisfactory for anyone. But no one suggested or expected that to be the usual thing. This season, there's been no blocking other than the fact that they didn't play a game at Toronto and gave up 3 or 4 home games at the start of the season. But really, there's been no systematic block of fixtures, as it were. They might have had back-to-back home games, but they're still suffering the jet lag on the first one, like you say. And when they come back to this country, they'll be playing a team that's got no jet lag, but they'll have it for the sort of third game in that run. So it's
I mean, certainly if they are back and forth, then that will make it harder for them. There's no doubt about that.
So I think that there's a balance enough there. I know one of the things that people don't like. There's clubs that, if Toronto do manage to be successful financially, viable long-term financially, and not having to, be able to, they can open up some commercial deals for themselves and for the Super League, but they'll take a bigger cut because the Super League aren't giving them a cut of our deals that we've already built up for ourselves already. So they're not getting central funding now. So why should Super League get the same cut of what any deals they do?
Yeah, that's quite right.
So if they can do those deals and can make themselves more financially sustainable without just David Argyle and the couple of friends that throw in the money there, then the worry for clubs is they'll have money and we don't have money. So that'll make me as a Wakefield fan, as a Hull KR fan, as a Castleford fan maybe, long term less able to compete. And some of those fans already feel a bit disenfranchised and less able to compete. So that's part of it. And also with this whole thing about not wanting to go to all the games and being worried about this, what people like Wally have to remember for those people is the talk isn't just Toronto coming and that's it. New York, Ottawa, Toulouse. So all of a sudden you're up to 5 potentially of your away games, of the sides in the competition. So that's, if it was everyone played each other twice, that's 5 games you can't get to. And at the moment with loop fixtures, it could be more than 5 you can't get to, depending on how the fixtures settle. So that's what people's worry is. It's not just the fear of Toronto, it's the fear of everything else, that if Toronto works, other people might want to get on the back of that,
do the same,
and then you lose more, and then you are seeing your place in Super League under threat because of sides that you don't understand why they're in our competition. That's the best explanation I can give for why people are against Toronto entering Super League.
No, I can't disagree with that. I put this down to, fundamentally, it's a mindset issue. It's, if you're of a mindset where everything's a zero-sum game and if they win you lose, then you're bound to think that if Toronto take the best players, get the best favourable fixture lists, etc., it means I'm going to be disadvantaged as a team. I think the people who are for it see the potential of it, and they're more excited about the prospect of the broader development of the game. I think it's more about
it's worth the risk to get more money into a competition and make it a 16 competition that resembles the NRL in terms of scope and size and budget, more than a 12-team competition where every couple of years one of the teams might face financial extinction. And the risk of it, for me, we're not risking any of our money on Toronto or on New York.
No.
So the risk is worth it for me.
Yeah, and I have to say that as somebody who's been in the lower divisions, it really does, I have to say, piss me off that suddenly it's become an issue when suddenly it's about Super League teams. Yet we've expected amateurs and part-time players to be travelling across the world, giving up work and giving up time and that kind of stuff. And then suddenly, when it becomes an issue for full-time professional players, suddenly it's a bigger thing. I don't
I'm not
get
sure
that.
it is a bigger thing. I think it's happening. That's happening now. I think these conversations
Yeah.
have